Hello, everyone. PrimeTime Moff here. It's Tuesday. It's time to talk robots, but we have a special extended edition, as this Tuesday is Transformers Tuesday. It's the 17th of September, and why is that important? Because the 17th of September 1984 is where the Americans, and the Americans rule the world, so we have to conform to them, in America, and September 17th, 1984, Transformers aired on TV with the first of the episodes of the amazing cartoon series. And we've had them in the cinema this year. We've had a chance to go see them. It's been an incredible year so far for the 40th anniversary. But we thought that for this Tuesday, for it being an anniversary, for it being Talking Robots, we would delve a little bit into why Transformers for us. But first, I will love to introduce you to my wonderful co-host, Oddimus Prime. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing really good. Yes. It's been a while since I've done Talking Robots Tuesday, so let's go with this.
So, yeah, I thought for this one, and I invite others to respond to this, but I just thought it'd be good to chat about why Transformers. Transformers now, as we've talked about, has been around for 40 years. For people like Simon and myself, we have, pretty much collected for the vast majority of those 40 years. There's points where I didn't collect maybe the current generation of stuff that was out, but I was always still picking up stuff on eBay at card book sales. I've never not had a Transformer in my life. My G1 Grimlock has always been on display in every single kind of room I've had or space I've had. I've always had some form of toy out, always sort of some form of Transformers out. There's a little bit of time during the 90s where I never really picked things up because I hit that age where video games were dead popular, and then I started to drink. But it was only a few years. It was only a small period of time before I then started to get back into Transformers. And I've always had that love for them. And I think you're kind of the same, Simon.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, growing up, born late 70s, so the 80s was our full-on era. But it was Star Wars, it was He-Man, it was Thundercats and everything else. But Transformers really was the one that stuck, which in some respects I find a little bit odd, and I'll explain why. Because with Transformers, they were this phenomenon, this massive phenomenon all over the world, and they were these amazing toys, and everybody had them. Everybody you knew had at least one Transformer, and you'd go around your mate's house and you'd play with ones that you didn't have. And even if you only had a couple, you in the 80s, as a kid in the 80s, you would have experienced way more figures than you had just because of all the people that you knew that had them. But what's odd about it was that the cartoon over here was aired sporadically, and not really well scheduled. So it was only on certain times. It was really early in the morning as part of another program, and then it was also broken down into like 2-minute chunks. So, and if your parents were making you go shopping or something, you'd miss the end of an episode, all that kind of jazz. So it wasn't really until we got videos and stuff like that that it really became a little bit more. But that said, it was the line that really, really appealed to me, really, really stuck in my head and made me want to get more of these figures. And I absolutely loved them. And for me, again, I think we've spoken about it a fair bit before. It was getting like the annuals at Christmas and just
Yeah.
poring over them, reading and rereading those stories and looking at all the pictures and getting the catalogs in your figures. And even if you only had one figure, you'd pore over those other figures and the Argos catalogs and all of this stuff. And it was just so interesting to me, and it just made me really want to get all this stuff, and that stuck with me. I've, as Moff says, I haven't not had a toy in my house or in my room. I, I don't think ever. I don't think it's ever not been something, and that's moved on to my desk at work. My car, my first car, I had loads of action figures, blue tacked to the dashboard. So, like, this is just something that I've always done, has always wanted to do, and I've always been interested in it. But Transformers has always been a massive part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me it was the storytelling and the bits of the cartoon that I saw were good. The movie was the clincher for me. The movie was the bit that probably, without Transformers the movie, I don't know if I would have kept that love alive during the times where I didn't really do the toys, because I still went and got the video and I still would
Mm.
hire a video, and I had a copy of it, I'm sure at one point taped off the telly. I have seen that film, more than any other film by a country mile, more than any
Mm.
other film. And the bit I always say for when it's media, for whether it be your favorite album, your favorite video game, your favorite movie, the one that you watch the most naturally is your favorite. Whether you say that's the one I think is the best film,
Mm.
is Transformers the movie the best storytelling emotionally and all these bits? No, there are probably other ones that have Oscar winning stuff, like The Godfather's an outstanding film. But Transformers a movie is the film that I enjoy the most, because I watch it. Every time I watch it, I still smile. I still feel the same kind of sense of joy from it. And I have generally watched it more by, as I say, by a country mile than anything else. That film was what kept me kind of going through it. I didn't have a lot of the toys. We very much were. We would get to pick a toy at Christmas, a toy at birthday, and the rest were toys that my mum and dad picked up that were generally the cheaper end of toys and stuff that maybe they got in clearance. And I now as a parent, I massively understand it. As a kid, I didn't. I was always like, oh, I wish I could get more. I never had lots of things that I wanted. As an adult, as you can tell, and all the counterbalanced that. But I think it was I had more Transformers than I probably had anything else, because they were always the thing I asked for. And there's loads of the G1 stuff I still haven't experienced, and that's really fun. There's
Yeah.
still 40 years in this fandom, there's still so much that I haven't. And doing this show has reinvigorated my love's never went away for it, but it's reinvigorated my love for parts of the franchise that I hadn't had any interest in, or didn't have a massive desire to go back and do. Like, I'm rereading the original comics, because having talked about it, I'm like, I've not read them since. I think I didn't pick them, read them originally. I didn't have them as a kid. Never ever saw them as a kid. I saw my very first one, and I've told this story before. My very first one I ever saw, I saw in a shop, got all excited, didn't have any money, so I shoplifted it. Then felt so much guilt that I put it straight in a bin and ran away, because I don't know age. I'd love to know which it was so I could then get it signed, because that's the weird thing to do. But I had the annuals. Like, the annuals, I reread and reread and reread. And my favorite, most visual image is from, I think it's the 1985 annual, and it's the Dinobot story where they're all sleeping, and then they have the kind of bit at the end where they're all kind of in a battle bit. And I still have a desire to get it as a tattoo, but that image is the image that, if I was only ever to remember one image the rest of my life for Transformers, that would be the one, because it just have reread and reread that annual so many times. And
Yeah.
it just, that's probably why I love a Dinobots, because it just was like, oh man, they are amazing. But there's just so many bits of that. And then the toys are still, I picked up some G1 stuff at TFN this year that I hadn't experienced, and it's like, this is great fun. And then you go to the modern stuff, and some of the engineering in the modern toys, whether it be third party, whether it be Hasbro, the engineering marvels of it, it's like, this is just incredible. And I
Yeah.
think that was the bit as a kid that really, the two toy lines that really blew me away as a kid were Mask and Transformers, because they
Yeah.
weren't just a car. I never really could get into Hot Wheels, or it wasn't really Hot Wheels as a kid. I always remember it being more Matchbox. I never really resonated with me, because it's just a car. Action figures kind of were a bit like that. It's just a figure. I wanted a bit something that was a bit creative, and Transformers and Masked absolutely did that for me. Transformers more than Mask, because the car was a character. It was like, it's just something about it. And I still look at some of the G1 stuff. Like, I picked up a G1 Sideswipe. I didn't have a G1 Sideswipe. I got a G2 Sideswipe in the 90s, but I had picked up a G1 Sideswipe, and I'm just like, this is just such a great toy. And it's a toy that's 40 years old. Like, that's the marvel of it. And the fact that the franchise reinvigorates itself. We've talked through this. We've went through RID, we've went through Beast Wars, Beast Machines, we went through the Unicron trilogy. I bet you talk about animated, Prime, RID 2015, it's reinvigorated itself so many ways,
Mm.
so many different things. You know, there's so many gimmicks in the line. It is a toy line that there is genuinely, I believe, there's something that everybody could get a bit of fun out of.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And, you know, we talked in our kind of State of the Union episode about the stuff that's been revealed recently. And we're sitting 40 years in this franchise, and it still feels as exciting that what's next, you know, and it's again very much going at the what's next of that original toy line. You're taking Missing Link is taking the original 1984 toys and made you go, oh, what are they doing? How are they going to do it? It just blows my mind, and it's a franchise that will always be part of my life. You know, and I have Primetime Toys. It's a huge part of my life. You know, a massive part of my life. I have friends like yourself, like Paddy, like Greg, like the guys from the show that I wouldn't have if it was not for this franchise. The Transformers is such a huge part of my life now, and it's incredible to see the franchise in the state it is that we have. You know, the new movie coming up. You've got T-shirts and stuff that are available in shops like Asda and Tesco, and it's such an accepted part of the you know, the public now for geeks to have that outlet.
Yeah.
And things like, you know, we're going to talk about Transformers the movie, 2007 movie, which didn't, you know, we talked about this already. It didn't reinvigorate the franchise, didn't save the franchise, but I guarantee there's not many people who don't know who Optimus Prime are, you know, or who Megatron are, because those movies were such huge bits. And there's not many franchises that have that. You know, I'm looking behind you, and you've got your Star Wars one. Star Wars is another one franchise that was probably a big one for me. Like the movies when I was a kid, just I adore the films. I adore the toys from the childhood, but it's just incredible to see the franchise be in the position it is just now. I've waffled on loads here, but
No.
I genuinely could just talk. It's funny. I will always say I could talk about Transformers every day for the whole day, and I still wouldn't probably cover everything I want to say about it.
I completely agree. I mean, we just tiny insight. We just recorded the State of the Union episode, which went out on Sunday, hopefully. And you know, we waffled for half an hour before that. We waffled half an hour in the middle of it, and now we're talking now about it. So, yeah, genuinely, it's something that is such a big part of our lives. It's been such a big part of our lives for so long, and you know, it's really great that there's such a strong community of fans. And yeah, not everybody likes everything, and we don't all get along because we're human beings, and you know, we aren't the same, so we're not all going to be liking everything that everybody else likes, or clash of personalities and whatever else. But at the end of the day, it's such a really great community to be a part of. There's so many great characters. There's so much fan interaction from the creatives who have stuff to do with this. I mean, Simon Furman, I've often spoken about Simon Furman, but you know, he joined the franchise in like 1984, 1985 sort of era, writing comics, and he still does that. He still writes Transformers material. Yeah, he went for a few years of not doing it, but also, if you ever see him at an event and you've got 5 minutes, and often he is on his own for a little while, pop over, have a chat with him. He is genuinely the nicest guy and is so happy to talk about Transformers. He's so enthusiastic about it, and he'll remember stuff from stories that we half remember. And you know, a lot of the times with people who are involved in big franchises, if you were lucky enough to meet them and you want to ask them an odd question, even Bob Budiansky, they won't remember. It's something they did. It was a job. But for Simon Furman, it's more than that. It's a passion of his. He loves it. He still writes for the Transformers Earthrise game on a like weekly basis as new content, new storyline coming out. It's almost like a comic, but requires more money to be able to win. But yeah, so there's that whole sort of aspect of it. And I've lost my train of thought. So
And I think you brought up a point there is like I also then pinch myself. You know, you and I have had the absolute pleasure to spend time with Simon Furman, Andrew Wellman, you know, Jeff Senior.
love Jeff.
We have love the guy. We had Lee Sullivan this year. We had an interview with Bob Budiansky. We were sitting chatting to Bob Budiansky, like, what? How has this happened? I've got Simon Furman on my phone. I could quite happily go and message him just now. He gets back to me and he chats, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And it's Simon Furman. And
And that's
then I've got the other one. The one that's getting me just now is my genuinely my favorite media of this franchise, other than the movie, because the movie deserves its own category because it cannot be touched. My favorite stuff is More Than Meets the Eye from IDW. I've reread again. Go back to my comment about the movie. I've reread More Than Meets the Eye more than I've reread anything, and it still astounds me every time, and I just get goosebumps when I'm reading it. And I have James Roberts in my phone because I'm going to get the chance to chat to him next year at TF UK Con, and we're involved in a Transformers convention. It's just my wife. So quick history. I left after 19 years with HSBC. I left them 2 years ago this month to start with Primetime Toys, but also starting a whole new career as well. And people will often ask my wife, because she still works at the HSBC First Direct, and they'll ask, "What's Graham doing?" And she says, "It sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, but he is living his best life." And I often think, how have I got so lucky that these moments have came about where I get to chat to my friends on a regular basis about stuff that I love, they love, you know, talk, whether it be talking tunes, whether it be this with you, whether it be jumping on a Transformers show. I get to talk to people who are like-minded people and are passionate, and that, especially because it's, you know, we're not living close by. 20 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. So we're in an incredible age for that. But also, then I get to run a toy business, which is epic, and then get to be involved in a convention and meet incredible creators of content that just it is the Transformers have given me such a huge aspect of pleasure in my life. And you know, you'll have the same feeling. You're in a toy room. You know, my partner and your partner are very forgiving and very understanding of our obsession. But I love coming in. I sit in here and I just look around and go, this is just awesome. I get to have toys. And Transformers, what for me, a very quick one on a very quick one. This is not a quick conversation. I have had major mental health issues in my life. I broke my back when I was 13, and it caused me to have severe depression, diagnosed with clinical depression. I've had mental breakdowns. My Transformers have always been the thing that has helped. But even before I learned of what I now praise as mindfulness and being and a bit of meditation and being able to focus on one thing, Transformers were always that. You know, before you heard of fidget cubes, Transformers were a fidget cube for me before a fidget cube was even a thing that people talked about. My Transformers, I've always had something as a kind of despot or something that I can almost fiddle with and forget about the world. You know, getting I always think Masterpiece MP01, and not 01, I'm MP1. That's Liam from Triple Takeover getting influencing me there. But the time I remember sitting transforming that toy, and the whole world disappeared because all I am focusing on is that toy, and that has been such a relief in dark points of my life. And the Transformers will always have that special bit because they've always had that ability for me. I think that's I don't think I could prattle on, but I think I've covered everything I should say. Not what I want to say, but what I should say.
I think we've more or less taught. I won't say taught to death because I don't. That's a terrible way of putting it because it's something I do love talking about, and I'm more than happy to explain and share why I got into this and why I love Transformers. And going back slightly, I remember reading the comics. The first two comic people whose names I knew were Simon Furman and Jeff Senior. Me and I am my best mate. Saying 46-year-old man saying he's got a best mate, but you know what I mean. Who I've known since school. I've known since I was like 11 years old. We became friends because we both had guitar lessons after school, and he opened his bag and G1 Getaway fell out. And I immediately clocked it, and he very embarrassingly stuffed it back into his bag because, you're a cool kid. You shouldn't have toys. But anyway, but then we became friends over talking about Transformers and then going around to each other's houses and playing Transformers and all that kind of stuff that you do when you're a wee young nipper. But yeah, so that whole sort of aspect, and again, like you say, I just feel immensely privileged, I suppose, that I'm in a position where I know people who have opened up this world to me in a way that I didn't think was going to be possible. And Greg's got a lot to do with this.
Oh,
Uh,
don't give it. I'll keep after hearing
I'm
this.
giving
I
him a
said,
little bit
I
of
know.
credit.
I mean, I said I give him massive credit for the life I have now and all aspects of it, and how lucky I am. And he's sick of hearing it from me. But don't
But
need anybody
anyway,
else giving him the praise.
yeah, sorry.
But if you're listening, Greg, you just get back in your box.
Yeah, and play with the jaws, pops. Um, but yeah, so that sort of opened up a whole sort of section, and there's other people as well. There's people that I know and have become friends with. Stu, for example, who if I wouldn't have known Greg if I hadn't met
Yeah.
Stu, and I met Stu through selling a 2000X Master of the Universe figures in the groups. And I only knew about selling stuff in the groups because I joined the Transformers groups and became
Yeah.
friends with other people and all of that stuff. But again, it all sort of comes back, and now we're running a convention. We've got awesome friends who and sellers like Lucan's Tees. His stuff is amazing, absolutely amazing, and it's so. I feel really lucky to be involved with people who are promoting him because he's done all his promotion himself, but the little help that we've been able to sort of provide him and give him sort of more of a push and more of a exposure is great because he deserves it, and his stuff is amazing by Lucan's Tees. Not a paid promotion. Uh but yeah, all of that, and then being able to go, oh, what am I doing this week? Oh, yes, I'm interviewing Bob Skier. I'm interviewing Bob Budiansky. Oh, got to have another
All
chat
the
with
Bobs.
Simon. All of that. And meeting Jeff and Simon, the first time I met them at TFN was just like starstruck, and then met them again at TF UK Con and actually be able to sort of sit and chat and natter to these amazing guys. And it's, yeah. Anyway, Transformers. It's just amazing.
Well, I think we'll wrap up there. This has been our extended talking robots. Just slightly over the shorts that we're going to be going forward with talking robots. But I thought it was a good way to celebrate the Transformers Tuesday. I'm very curious to see what Hasbro do. I'm looking forward to later in this week, hopefully seeing Transformers One. And again, I'm incredibly excited about the future of the Transformers brand. The legacy line transforming into what was it called? They revealed it on Friday.
Time
Something
of the
Primes.
Primes or something.
Yeah. I'll
Time
be
of the
curious.
Primes.
Time of the Prime, I think.
Prime
Yeah.
time.
So Prime time. Woo. But I think that we have a chug line because I'm going to call it chug just because that's kind of easy way to put it. That kind of scale stuff, studio series, and then we've got Missing Link, and then we've got reissues. What a time to be alive! And it is really cool that it's also a time where they're not just focusing G1. There's a lot of
Yeah.
toys from the Unicron trilogy. There's Beast Wars. They are absolutely this year celebrating the whole of the franchise, and it's an absolute joy. And I cannot wait to see what we have in store for the rest of this year and the future years. The good thing is we will always have something to talk about because there's always something cool and new coming.
Exactly.
But thank you so much, Simon, for joining me on this Tuesday's episode.
You're mother
we will be
welcome.
back to short episodes. we do short episodes now and again.
We do.
We'll back to shorts next week, and we'll have our regular content back up very shortly. But thank you so much, Simon, again, and thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Make sure you keep your notifications on to see all the wonderful content. We've got so much stuff to cover in the coming. We genuinely have desires to do this for a long time, and we have sat and talked about what could we do, and we have enough content in our brains that would probably cover 2 years and then some. So I look forward to sharing that journey with you. Thank you all for now. See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.